So we're going to talk about storage. Why is storage important? We're going to look at the importance of storage and some components of storage. So let's bring up my whiteboard as usual. Okay. Let's give this a name. That's storage. It's 100%. Yeah. Okay. So when we talk about storage, Azure Storage. So why storage? So we'll have applications. Once we start creating resources in Azure, we're going to have applications that need storage solutions, right? We're going to need, if you have a static website, what's the difference between static website and dynamic website? What's the difference? Hello, hello. Let's try. So for static websites, okay, these are type of websites whereby there is no exchange of data. Exchange. No data exchange. Okay. So, for example, a blog site. Blog. A blog site would be a typical example, or maybe a descriptive website. Just introducing to a customer, oh, this is our website, this is what we do, that's it. There is nowhere to search, there is nowhere to add username and password, there's nowhere to look up items and make a request, right? It's not collecting data from you. It's only giving you, showing you read access. It's not requesting you to put in any information. So it's static. The opposite is dynamic website. So dynamic websites are interactive. So now, what are examples? What would be an example of a static website? based on what I've told us here.
Like email login.
Yeah, so if you are logging in online, since you are providing your username, password, you are checking your emails, you are responding to emails. So that's dynamic. You are interacting with the website. What of a static website? An email, a web app, yeah. So for a static website, remember the website that Johns Hopkins used to send COVID-19 spread updates. Every time you refresh the website, the numbers were changing. Or election websites. During elections, you will be able to track areas where your favorite candidate is leading, or areas where elections have been completed, but you are not putting any information. You didn't sign in, just went to the website and you are tracking the updates. All right. So a web app, Facebook is a dynamic website. Twitter or X is now X, right? So those are dynamic websites. So for your static website, let's assume that you are a photo vendor. You are into photography, videography, and you want to have a storage for all your catalog, and you want to funnel the data to your website so that people can view your, just like an exhibition, so that people can look at your previous works before they give you a job to come and cover their events. So you can put your pictures on the static website. Okay, photo booths. So you can put your photo booths in the static website, because people are just scrolling, swiping, however you want to set it up, pictures over a period of time, and then they can make their decisions. So when we talk about Azure Storage, Azure Storage is categorized into 4 components. So we have blobs, all right? We have tables, we have files, queues. Did I get the spelling? Q, U, should be ES, I believe. This was one of the spellings we missed during dictation. Q, QUES. Is it? I think there's something off with that. Let me confirm the spelling. Q. QUEUES. Yeah. Okay. So we have blobs, tables, and queues. So in our blobs, blob is an acronym for binary large objects. So we are storing binary files, large files, object files. So those are the kind of data we store in the blobs. But before you even have the blobs, you need to have a container where you're going to host those blobs. So if we have documents, right? If we have PDF files that we need to save, we can use blobs to save them. Blob storage to store PDF files, document files, TXT, okay, binary files, archive storage for maybe your Terraform state files, TF dot state. Your TF dot state files, right? Those are your Terraform state files. When we get to Terraform, I'll tell you more about that. So sometimes you might need a secure storage location for those kind of files. What about MP3 files, music files, MP4? Maybe you are supporting a streaming platform, right? A news outlet. They need storage for all their archive videos, all their podcasts. They need a bulk storage solution. You can use blob storage. Podcasts. All right. So these are just a few. All these are irregular objects. They are unstructured data. So we call them unstructured data. All right. So these are unstructured data. Fax receipts. Okay. Application files. They're really not structured data. Tables host structured data. So your databases, your SQL databases are tables. Your Cosmos DB, your non-SQL databases, NoSQL, right? All those, they have tables and they have rows and columns. Tables, they have rows and columns, so that makes them a table. So those ones are structured data. Then there are files. Of course, this one too is unstructured. And there are queues, which are for messaging, application messaging. App messaging. So we're going to draw more. This files is for file storage. A central file storage solution. All right. So we're using this to store files. So let's look at some characteristics of a typical Azure storage environment. So if you have a customer that says we need a storage solution for, you should know what to do now for all our files. Maybe a healthcare organization, they need a long-term storage solution for client records that are no longer on their database or that have moved accounts, but they still need to save their data. or if you are working with a financial institution and they are looking for a long-term storage solution for their tax records of their clients, transaction records, documentations, or a mortgage platform. So you can recommend one of these that applies to them. So when we say unstructured data, as the name implies, no organization. How do you want to structure PDF files into tables and queues, into rows and columns, right? They are non-relational data. And the structured data, they are stored in a relational data format. Right? So what you have in a database, tables and queues. So your Cosmos DB, Azure SQL will fall under, so that's why I said SQL. So Cosmos DB is a non-SQL service. Azure SQL, the SQL service. Azure SQL database. Those are relational data. All right. So let's look at some qualities of storage accounts. So with a storage account, you get a secure storage solution. Right? It gives us a secured storage solution. It gives us a scalable. Wow. What's wrong with my writing today? A scalable storage solution is durable. It follows the CIA of security. What is the CIA of security? Cyber security, confidentiality, integrity, and accessibility. It follows that policy such that if you store your data in a blob service, you are the only one that have access, and any other person you grant access, okay, is then the content. So the I stands for integrity. That means the content remains the same, even if you don't access the data for 7 years, for 10 years. The content must still remain the same. Not body, nothing should tamper with the state of those data as of the last time it was accessed. And A stands for accessibility, meaning that anytime I need to pull my data, it must be available. I don't need to jump hoops. I don't need to scale fences before I access my data. Like easily, I should be able to access my data. So these are the core principles of cybersecurity, CIA of cybersecurity. This is something you should be familiar with as time goes on. So of course, we can't stop talking about the pricing tiers. So it comes as standard and premium storage options. All right. Okay. Let's see. Let's go ahead and create a storage account. Let's go into the portal. Which one is this one? 2. No transaction. So let's create a storage account. What should we give it? What's the name of a company? Tire.
The name of what?
Yeah.
You said the name of a company?
Yeah, your company. Let's use your company name.
Oh, Tizul Events.
T.
I double Z.
Okay. Oh, Tizu Events. Yeah, Tizu. So let's assume you have a website, or you are building a website, or you are okay. So it's an event. It's an event management service. So let's assume that you are building an app where people can sign up for tickets, just like all these ticketing platforms, Alaria, all these online booking platforms whereby you can book for concerts, you can book for meetings, or like Evite. You know Evite, right? So let's assume this is a similar app. So you came to Blex Technologies, you said, oh, I build me an app that I can use to register event attendees. So the name of the app is Tizzle Events. So as the cloud engineer or developer or solution architect, you are setting up the environment for them. So you come up with a naming convention. Naturally, you want to use the name of the product as the naming convention. So the name of our resource group is going to be named after the product, which is Tizu Events. So this Tizu Events resource group. We have a subscription and storage account name. Is the name. So which location do you want to put this? So let's find somewhere close to Texas. Central US, that's the location. Now, in terms of pricing tier, is either you go for a standard, which covers most scenarios as we find here, right? Blobs, files, queues, yeah, it's going to cover everything. But if you want a dedicated solution for blobs, for file shares, or for page blobs, so you have to actually specify which of these options you want to go for. Premium for blobs. Very important, please. If you are taking the exam, you must know this. The different premium storage solutions, storage accounts you can have. Is either block blobs, premium block blobs, premium file shares, or premium page blobs. So if you need a rapid solution for read and write operations, you go for page blobs. If you need a rapid, low latency solution if you need a high performance solution for blob storage, you go for block blobs. Same thing applies, high performance enterprise grade file share solution. You go for files, premium files. Okay, please pay attention. This is very important. So I'm going to go for standard because I just need a solution. Then data redundancy. We're going to talk more about this. So you get to select the region where your data is going to be stored. And each of these regions have data centers that we call availability zones. So I'm saying, okay, I want to store this in a data center located around central US. You don't know the state exactly. You don't know whether it's in Texas or it's in Chicago or which other state is around there. It's around Texas. That is 1 hour time difference from East
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. So you don't know the exact location because they won't disclose their exact data center location. But at least it's in central US. So one of the data centers in central US is where your services will be hosted, your data will be hosted. Now, do you need a so these are additional features if you want to add. Well, in the office, you will most likely use Active Directory, or they have not modified this. This should be Entra, but you know what I'm saying. So if you want users to authenticate with their Active Directory account, data information, they will just put in their username and password to access. Do you want anonymous access on containers? Yeah. So these are just other ways we can manage these files. So what of data in transit? This is the encryption solution for data in transit. Is either you select version 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, but 1.0 and 1.1 will be decommissioned soon. So this is the security solution for data in transit, transport layer. So sometimes you might be asked in an interview, how do I encrypt data at rest? How do I encrypt data at rest? So what to tell them, very important, please. So how do I encrypt my data at rest? What to tell them, okay, depending on the location of your data, if it's in the cloud, if it's in AWS, if it's in Azure, you can either go for the cloud provider's managed key. So in Azure, you have Microsoft managed keys, or hardware security module, which is customer managed keys. So if you are going for Microsoft managed keys, you don't really no stress. Right? I'm just going to leave it for Microsoft to figure it out. Just guarantee that my data is secured. Where the main work is with customer managed keys. Because with customer managed keys, you're going to deal with all the overhead, create the key vaults, create the files, the certificates, the encryption keys, rotate the keys as periodic as possible. So you have a lot of overhead management with customer managed keys. But those are the two ways you can encrypt your data at rest. How do you encrypt your data in motion? This is where we use TLS. They might ask you, so which version are you using? Just tell them, we recently migrated to version 1.2. 1.0, 1.1 is going to be decommissioned soon. So you can query Azure Storage, okay, which TLS use. So these are documentations you can use to just check the TLS version that was used for a transaction within your subscription. And the quoted is you see all these documentations, how to navigate in the storage account. Let me drop this in the chat. Any question? All right. So I'm going to choose TLS version 1.2. Yeah, keep this one as it is. No hierarchical namespace. Yeah. Do you want to? What's the best practice for storage? Do you want to enable access from all networks? Best practice: never expose your storage service to the internet. Lockdown. You can always come back to modify this. And the best practice, this is a typical interview question. So I just created my storage account. I'm going to open it up to the internet. How do I set it up? You want to counter that statement that why would you want to open up your storage account to the internet? Your storage account is holding sensitive data, business critical data that must remain private to your organization, to your network. So never expose it to the public. If there's any app, there's any server that needs to access your storage account, let them use a private connection, a private link, service endpoint, private endpoint to access the storage account. So you can lock access to a specific IP address, maybe an IP address that connects to a server, associated with a server. Now only this server in this corresponding network will be able to access the storage account. So very important, never expose it, but I'm going to just put this out. So look at, they have already even given a warning here. Unless public access is required, we recommend using more restricted access, right? Don't just expose your storage service. So this is our security guardrails that are readily available. You can utilize. You know the way your recycle bin works, right? If you delete a file now, if you have your recycle bin configured, it goes into the recycle bin. So that means if you accidentally delete a blob and we have already enabled soft delete, we'll be able to recover the blob. Basically, that's what we're saying. If there's an accidental deletion, you'll be able to recover the deleted file. Make sure you enable soft delete. So try to create a storage account in PowerShell. We'll see how that should work. Yeah. So we'll see whether we can set up soft delete at that point. But please always enable this, right? And you can set the time. So if I put this at 7 days, that means that within 7 days, I can bring back the deleted blobs. Within 7 days, I can bring back the deleted containers. If we don't put these numbers in, if we don't check these boxes, if any developer accidentally deletes your storage account, it's gone. It's gone. You know that it's gone. So you can set it as much as 1 year. But I would say let's make this 21 days. So that means you must have a policy in place that checks all deleted blobs periodically. Every 2 weeks. You don't want to do this at 21 days. Every 14 days, you're going to be checking how many blobs were deleted, who authorized the deletion, was this accidental or intentional, was this part of a business process. So once you're able to ascertain that, you have created a guardrail to manage, to avoid loss of critical business data. Enable versioning. Versioning basically means that every time there is a change on your blobs, a new copy will be made, and you can always save those copies and check the patterns of changes. So maybe you did a commit, you committed a file, let's assume, and you want to track all the changes on that file, history. of commit on the file. You'll be able to view that using versioning. So if a developer said, oh, I didn't touch the file, I didn't do anything to the file, and you can see some changes. So every write operation, okay, in the blob results in creation of a news version. That's something you want to pay attention to. Okay. So if I modify version 2, goes back to this. Version 3, version 4. So it's going to get a version ID basically. This is where we encrypt data at rest. By default, all Azure Storage solutions are encrypted at rest. So this is encryption at rest. You can either use Microsoft managed keys or customer managed keys to encrypt this data. So use blob files. So what do you want to encrypt? So for customer managed keys, look at Microsoft managed keys. You know, there's not much to do here. The moment I move over to customer managed keys, I have to create a key vault. If it's not an Azure key vault, I need to provide a link, URI, to the destination of where the keys are going to be. So who's going to manage it? Is it a service? Yeah, an identity. I need to create a role in Active Directory to manage it. So I must have some user assigned managed identities. Otherwise, there's a key vault or managed HSM, hardware security module, just to give us control on access to our data. So let's review this. So if you want to download this template file for automation, Boolean string, let's look at the parameter file. Look at the parameter file. Usually, if you want to automate, just download before creating. Okay, download before creating so that, can you see Tuesday events, Central US. So we can edit this on our next deployment. We want to put this in maybe East US. So let's download it. See, template files.json, parameters file.json. So let's create. Version, okay. Oops. So we couldn't create it. Let's see if we can use partial. Oh. Let me extract the file. So this is the parameter file. Let's see if this will work. Hmm. Paste. And so what's our resource group? We want to use Tuesday events. Okay, resource group was created. Fine. Let's copy this. Let's put here. Paste. Resource group name. Just follow this resource group name. This is a declared resource group at the top. Template file. The template file name is parameters.json. Sorry, template.json. And then the parameter file is parameters.json. Let's see if this will work. If it doesn't work, I'll run away. Hmm. Oh, I need to declare my subscription. Remember the challenge we had the other day. Okay. Select subscription. Is it creating? Let's search storage accounts. Wow, succeeded. Tayo, can you do this? Can you use PowerShell to create a storage account?
I mean, I should be able to learn the steps.
Yes. So what I want us to be doing going forward, as we create on the portal, we also want to create using PowerShell. And I want you to note the commands because you want to prove that you can actually manage resources in PowerShell and Terraform. So those are the two languages. Those are the two automation scripts I want you to be familiar with: Terraform and PowerShell. Terraform could be a bit complicated, but if you get it
I have
once,
a question though. It's not related to this, but on the first day, you actually had those download VS Code.
yes.
Yeah, can we like install PowerShell in VS Code?
It already has PowerShell.
It already has PowerShell, so we can do all this in VS
You
Code.
can do it. You just need to connect, even if it's your CMD. Okay, even if it's CMD. You just need to connect to your Azure account. Okay, so you're going to install Azure CLI here. Okay, so I have Azure CLI installed, even if it's on my local machine. So what we do is that when we start talking about VMs, then we have a virtual machine. We will install Azure CLI. We will connect it to your account. We create your server, your resource group, everything there. You go and check whether it was created here. Because on the job, you won't be doing anything on the portal. Everything will be on the back end of virtual servers for security purposes. Remember all those parameters we specified: TLS, standard, you see, choose event, storage account name. So if we come here now, I should be able to find the storage account name. Let's refresh this. Can you see? So this is the storage account name. And look at it. These are the data storage solutions. Because you are using a standard, if it's not standard, you just see only one of these. So if we go into containers, let's create a storage, a blob storage. Private. Let's keep this at the so let's upload a file here. Let me look for a file to upload. Let me look for a file I can upload here. A second. Okay, You do not have permissions to list data. Really? What's blocking? Well, let's just drag the file here. Oh, needs P2 license. Interesting. There's a license issue. Okay. License has expired. Intro. Oh, the license has expired on these tenants. How do we move this up now? Let me copy it. What is in the notepad? Directory. Happy to license. So let's go into one of the storage accounts I have here. London app. Containers. Why? Is this in a service endpoint? Can you imagine all these people? Network. So just imagine you are doing this on the job. Yeah, and this is beauty of troubleshooting. So it's good we are doing it together. Let's go into configuration. Anonymous access enabled. Secure transfer enabled. Go to Blackstack. Next storage. Containers. Next container. So let's upload the file. Drag into files here. Upload it. So check if you can access this. Please check. I'm posting it in Telegram. You have it. Any luck? Let me know if you were able to access the file. Let's take a 10 minutes break. Let me get some water.
I was able to.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me 10 minutes. Just grab some water. All right, let's wrap this up. So that is how we upload files onto the storage account. So you can manage access level. You know, I told you don't keep it public. So this is where you can change access to your blobs, or if you move out of this place, you can change access to the container itself. Check this box and change access. And of course, if you go into networking, this is where we can configure firewall or private endpoint connection. All right, a private endpoint connection for the servers. Oh, sorry, for the storage account. So storage account, since you have your website contents here, we can set up a Azure front door to funnel your workloads to the content delivery network. Sometimes if you look at some websites, you will see CDN, something like this. Now you will see something around here, maybe blob.cdn, right? You will see something like, so that's like a global content delivery network service that have been associated with the storage account. Sometimes if you are downloading an image, it will point you to S3 buckets. So next time, pay attention to links like this where you have to download a file, download an image, or create an account. Just pay attention to the link. You see that you find windows.net or blob something or S3. If it's AWS, you will see something S3, EastUS. You will see the location. We'll see the location. So let's look at some features of the storage account we have created now. I think I launched my VS Code. So this is what VS Code looks like. Let's open a file. Open a folder. Can you see my parameter file? So this is what VS Code looks like. So this was the file we created the other time. We said location central US, so you can always modify this. So I want you to deploy this file in your own environment. So watch the video, look at how I did it, then replicate and send screenshots to me during the week. Let me upload it for you. Okay. This parameter file. This is a template file. Okay. Minimum choice version. All right, let's look at some features of the storage account. So I've showed you where the networking is. So for authentication, let's assume you want to use an external service like Storage Explorer to access your account, and you don't want to use just username and password. We can set up authentication keys, access keys, and rotate the keys as often as we want. All these are just security guardrails to manage access. So access is very important in your environment. Who has access to what? If you go under the role-based access control here, you see the kind of roles we can assign to this storage account. Usually you want to check your role assignment. So I'm a service administrator at subscription level. I have access to everything. Eligible assignments. Okay, no eligible assignment. Now view roles. So these are the roles we can associate with this storage account. Contributor, backup operator, backup contributor, logic apps reader. Because if you have logic, log analytics workspaces there, yeah. So you'll be able to associate this role to the corresponding user that is managing your log analytics workspaces. And look at what this person can do. What do I get here? Okay. Logic apps contributor. So it's a contributor. And these are the assignments you can do. Can read all monitoring data and edit monitoring settings, but cannot edit the data. No data actions. Yeah. Just actions on the service itself. So let's look at another feature. Storage account. So let's see encryption. So you can modify your encryption. Maybe you want to use Microsoft MyA keys. You change your mind. You don't want to use customer MyA keys anymore. Or you want to use Microsoft MyA keys anymore. Just come here, make your changes, and transfer. So you are bearing the risk now as the user. Data. Then I want to talk about data redundancy before we leave. So right now, when we're creating the storage account, we selected LRS. Okay, local redundant storage. Basically, what this means is that the data, can you hear me? The data will be created in East-US. So there's no other location, only East-US. One data center in East-US. If I choose geo-redundant storage and I save, that means I have a primary region and a secondary region. If you remember what I mentioned about primary and secondary region, you determine your primary region. You see that I couldn't do anything with secondary region. I didn't select West US. This is just from a pool of what Microsoft has put in place. Geo-zone redundant storage. Let's see. Redundancy has failed. Let's all read access. Okay, let's read access now. So this is to where's East US here? This is West US. This is East US. So that means that if there's a failure at East US, my backup location is in West US, right? If there's a data center outage, if there's a regional outage, if there was a storm, tornado, cyclone that affected East US, I can fail over to West US where everything looks cool, right? Nothing is going on there. So this could be my cold backup location. West US could be my cold backup location. So let's look at the documentation that breaks that down. Data redundancy. This is something I want you to pay attention to. So we talked about the local redundant storage. You have 3 copies in a data center in a given region, right? This is the region. This is one data center in that region. So you're going to have 3 copies on different racks, right? You're going to have it on separate racks in that data center. So if anything happens to rack 1, we can fail over to rack 2, fail over to rack 3. If anything happens to the data center, your data is gone. If anything happens to the region, your data is gone. It's gone in the sense that you can't access your data until the region comes back online, or until the data center comes back online. So sometimes there's some use cases that support this. So it may be compliance reasons. You have just one data center at that location, and that is where you are mandated to host your workloads. You might want to go for LRS, consider LRS. So the downside is that you are susceptible to single point of failure. And we want to avoid this at every opportunity. So just look out for other options as long as you remain in compliance. And then there's a zone redundant storage. So in this case, instead of having your copies in one data center, your copies are distributed in 3 data centers, which means availability zone within a region. So let's say this region is US East. Okay. So I have one in New York. This one is in Maryland or Virginia. The third one is in maybe Connecticut, wherever the data center is. But at least if anything happens to data center 1, availability zone 1, we can always fail over to the second data center. So it's very important that we note all these principles. All these are just to reduce the point of, to increase the point of failure. You don't want to have a single source of failure, because if anything happens to these 2 zones, at least we can pick up from the 3rd zone. And usually they're like 300 miles apart. They're like 300 miles apart, so that the disaster may not impact the corresponding location. So at the global level, you're going to have primary region, secondary region. Just like what I showed us in the portal. So that this is dual redundant storage. In this case, you have a primary data center, sorry, a primary region, which is a locally redundant storage. So all your copies are in a data center, a primary region. Then you have a secondary region. All your copies are in the data center. If there's a regional outage or data center outage, if there's an outage, we'll be able to fail over to our secondary region. So you don't get to determine your secondary region. Microsoft does that for you. Usually any location you are, so if you are in West US, there's a corresponding secondary region. Let me pull up the list. So these are the regions in the US. Before the FIFA World Cup, Microsoft completed a data center in Qatar. So just imagine, it's a region, something like this. So just region one. So that means they have just 3 data centers in that location. So in some cases, you have 3 data center, 3 regions. So the third region could have just 1 data center. Okay, paired regions. So this is East US. By default, West US is the secondary region. East US 2, secondary region, Central US. So this is the list that Microsoft will use to determine your secondary region. All right. Any question? Are we good? All right. Of course, this comes at a cost. If you are doing this in your tenant, please don't keep it running for too long so it doesn't mess up your accounts. All right. Post this. Make sure it doesn't mess up your what is it called now? Your subscription. This comes at a price. So let me just go back to my locally redundant storage. Data protection. Okay, so remember soft delete? You can always modify it here. So most of the things we did at the initial point of creation, we can always modify them here. Object replication. Create replication rules. If you need to replicate to another storage account, just set the rules. As they are created in storage account 1, let them push into storage account 2. So there are a lot of things we can do with our storage accounts. So we talked about the static website the other time. So if you want to host static content like your photos, web pages, just need to enable this to start utilizing it. The last thing I want to talk about is the life cycle rehydration. Whenever we create a storage account, it comes as hot or cold. Let me see. Okay, it comes, so the default access tier is hot or cold. I can navigate between hot and cold, no? The blob default access tier is hot or cool. But we might have data that are not in use as often as they should, or as often as we planned it, because the data is no longer needed, the data is no longer in use. So what we're going to do is to create a policy to move them from hot storage to archive storage, because we don't want to be paying. It costs a lot to put your data in hot tier. So we're going to set up a rehydration policy. But before we do that, let's go into the pricing. Let's go into the pricing. Can you see? Let's put this in the US. So first 50 terabytes, not applicable. 0.046 per gigabyte. So multiply that by 1000 gigabytes. That's what you are paying. Pay as you go. And then there's reserved storage capacity. So if you are looking for ways to manage costs in terms of our storage capacity, you can use this. Look at the size, look at the cost. Hot 3000 plus, archive 200 plus. So archive tier holds data longer and cheaper. But anytime I need to move my data from archive to cool to hot, it's going to cost a lot. It's going to cost a lot of money. So let's create a policy, a life cycle management policy. So let's add a rule. And basically what this rule is saying, so let's give this title events. So that's the two events rule. Apply rule to blobs. Yeah. Yeah, I want to add this to block blobs, not append blobs. So what I'm doing here is that, okay, if blobs were last modified 30 days ago, then move to cool. If they were last modified 60 days ago, or 60 days ago, if they were last modified more than 180 days ago, move to archive storage. And that's the principle behind it. So hot tier, good tier, cold tier. The hot tier costs the highest, but in terms of latency, that's the easiest to cover. And then the cold tier. So you can come up with ideas on how to navigate this. Okay, 180 days, 90 days. Because you don't want to be paying, especially if you're in a healthcare environment where client data has to be available for maybe 7 years, 6 years. You can't put this in the hot tier. You have to go and put it in the archive tier. Whenever it's needed, they will call for it. It takes 12 hours for this to be rehydrated. Whatever you have in the archive tier, it takes 12 hours for it to come back online. So just anybody that asks of you on the job, just give them 12 hours. Give us like 1 day. We will send it to you by tomorrow, close of business. All right. So let's see if we can use that template file to create a storage account in dev test tenant. I'm going to upload. Upload one after the other. So let's create that storage, that resource group. CISO events resource group. Let me copy it. I'm going to put it in Central US. Done. Now let's go. Just gonna copy and paste the command since I already have it. Oh, bash. I'm using PowerShell. What was missing in the file? Okay, the name of the storage account. We need to change it. Parameters file. Tissue events 1, 2, 3. Okay. Where else? We need to fix. Save. This is good. So your storage account name has to be globally unique. So that was why I rejected the first deployment, because that name is already in use in another tenant. So this should work now. If I come here, I should be able to see. Choose the event resource group. Can you see? Was successfully created. Look at the name. If I refresh this, can you see? Was created in Central US. So you know what to do now. If you are running that script, make sure the name change, edit the name. Any question? All right, so I'm going to call it a day. I want you to assignment. Let me put this in the chat. So another assignment. We'll continue from here on Tuesday.
I didn't receive the I didn't see the video for the last class.
Yeah. I was looking for it. I'll do it now. I'll do it before we close, before I leave now. So assignment, upload. Six files. Into your blog. All right. And create a migration policy. create a gradation policy for your blogs. Make sure you are able to access the files you uploaded. So we'll continue from there. Next class. We'll talk about shared access signature. We'll talk about Azure files. We'll talk about securing storage service security. Okay, so let me just upload that file now.